soldier 'neath the falling flakes of white. He raised his hand and smiled at me as if he seemed to say, here's hoping we both live to see us find a better way. Then the devil's clock struck midnight and the skies lit up again. And that battlefield where heaven stood was blown to hell again. But for just one fleeting moment, the answer seems so clear. Heaven's not beyond the clouds, it's just beyond the fear. No, heaven's not beyond the clouds, it's for us to find it here. Sleep in heavenly peace. Did Mommy show up? Can I invite the other kids to come join you up here? So Reverend Julie's going to do a kids talk. We're going to have all the kids up here, and I guarantee you, you're going to have friends all around you, and we have all these adults. So kids of all ages, come on up. The young ones from 2 years old all the way up to 100. You can come on up here if you want, Harry, and you can sit with us.
And look at the power of music. I'm going to talk a little bit more about, come on kids, come on over. Thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that song and what happened, but did you see his face soften with that music? All right, come on up. Come on. Hi, guys. All right. You guys are inching closer and closer. How is everybody doing? Good? Good? Have a seat. All right. So, how many people were here last week when Reverend Richard did the talk? And we told you, we asked you to talk about kindness. We're talking all about kindness and creating acts of kindness. So, there's a microphone. I want to know, did anybody do an act of kindness this week that they got to write on the tag and put on our kindness tree? Jeremiah, you were going to tell us about yours? Okay. What did you do this week that was kind?
Help friends.
You helped friends? What did you help them do?
Fix
problems. All right, Jeremiah the fixer. Olivia? Here, let's get you on microphone. This is Olivia, and what did you do this week?
I helped my mom make eggs.
You helped your mom make eggs? And did you eat the eggs? Were they tasty? All right, that was a success. Somebody else? You did a kindness?
I helped my sister find a Willie.
You helped your sister what? Find Willie? Was he lost? A girl cat, and she's found. Anybody else? Well, make sure that you write those down. You've got one? Okay.
I'm going to help my brother not be sad.
Is this your brother? Aww. It's not your sister. She takes care of you, right? And look at all your friends around here, so we're never alone. Even when we don't see our moms and dads, we know that we've got angels all around us and friends all around us. So we're going to talk about peace. So make sure that you write your kindnesses down and put the ornament on the tree. We want to see our tree nice and full. And then this week, we're going to think of another thing that we can do to spread kindness. So, everybody look. What does this mean? Does anybody know what this means? Peace. Peace, that's right. What do you think peace means? want to think about it?
Yeah.
What is it?
It means that you have to give everyone space and be kind to them.
Be kind, give them space. Wow. If only I learned that. How old are you?
7.
If I could have learned that at 47, it would have been great. Yes.
I am 4.
You are 4.
He's 4 too.
And you're learning about peace? All right, so I have a question. How many people have a brother or a sister? So I bet you know what it's like to not be peaceful. Have you ever had maybe a little fight with your brother or sister? All right, and how did you resolve that? Did you resolve that?
Not quite.
Let's talk this through. How old is your sister?
She's 13.
Older than you. Ah. So what was this about? Are you comfortable sharing it in front of all these people? No. Okay, you don't have to. So can anybody think of something when you are upset with your mom or dad or your sibling? What do you think you should do to have peace? Are you okay? No, come here. So, guess where peace starts? Guess is the only place that we can have peace. Ourselves. No matter what anybody says to us, no matter anything that happens, we get to choose peace inside. Now, that can be a difficult thing because people will say mean things, or maybe on the playground take a toy, but we get to choose every single moment how we react. You want to tell us? No? Okay. Well, look out. All those people are holding peace for you. Even your sister. I don't have brothers and sisters, so I imagine it's got to be really difficult. But when you're older, you're not that far apart, so you're going to be the best of friends. I know. So, does anybody else have an idea about what grown-ups can do to have peace? I'm just curious if there are any evolved souls here. What, as grown-ups, could we do to help spread peace in the world?
They could be nice to big people and children.
Be nice to the big people and children. So, you have a question.
My mom and dad just be nice to me.
Your mom and dad, are they nice to you? Yeah? Well, that's a great start. And are you nice to them? His dad makes videos. That is awesome. So this week when we're doing our kindness, we're going to remember that peace starts where? Right here. And if something happens that doesn't feel very peaceful, what can we do? We can forgive. And we can put our hand over our heart and take a deep breath. And we can pray. Wow. Out of the mouths of babes, right? And we put our hand right over our heart like this, and we send love. We send love first to ourselves. So everybody put their hands over their heart. Look, all the grown-ups are doing it. And we're going to take a deep breath and think of something where you want more peace. And now breathe out. Do we feel better? Yes. All right. So this week, do your kindness, put up your ornaments, and we know everybody go spread peace. All right. Off to Sunday school you go. Thank you. Are we going to sing? Yep. You going to go downstairs? Are you going to go downstairs?
It's a kind world after all. It's a kind world after all. It's a kind world after all. It's a kind world. Please join us. It's a kind world after all. It's a kind world after all. It's a kind world after all. It's a kind world.
Out of the mouths of babes, right? Right. So I want to talk a little bit about the song that Richard sang. So can we go back to that slide? The kids were getting closer and closer and closer, so I want to switch it around. But, you know, peace on Christmas night in the midst of a raging war. And who would think that the lilting sounds of Silent Night from deep within a foxhole could have such a dramatic change? But we saw with the little boy what music can do. It calms the soul. So it did happen, and in fact, it went even further. That picture is a real picture. It wasn't at Bella Wood. It was actually, they used that for the song, but it was a real event, and it went even further than just singing Silent Night. They actually came out of the foxhole, and there was a no man's land, and they put up a tree, and they wished each other well, and they even played a little soccer. And they decided to allow each other to bury their dead. So they allowed each other the space in that no man's land. It was a safety zone where they could retrieve their dead and actually repair the foxholes. So I just thought to myself, you know, and yet they had to go back to fighting. You know, what if we could have just stayed in that place? So if we can have peace in a foxhole, we can have peace anywhere. So the kids demonstrated, and we're going to talk all about peace today. Inner peace, what is peace? Where does it come from? How do we get it? And anybody who has a toddler knows they don't always exemplify peace all of the time, right? But they have something that we don't have, and that's the ability to let things go. We have a little bit of harder time with that. So they want what they want, and they fight to get it, but once they get it, they can be pulling each other's hair one minute, and then the next minute hugging it out. Animals and children have the unconditional love and the living in the present moment. So whose responsibility is peace? Well, I already gave you a hint with the kids. It comes and it starts from within. Pema Chodron, who's the author of Practicing Peace in Times of War, writes, and you don't have to say it with me, it's a long quote, but I wanted you to be able to see it. Peace, like happiness, is an inside job. It's not about them, it's about us. You and me and what's going on inside our heads and inside our hearts. It's easy to blame, but even the act of blaming is an act of judgment, aggression, and superiority. These are not peace-inducing emotions. We cannot change the world or even one other person besides ourselves. So let's start there. You mean we can't change even one person? Can you think of one person you might want to change? We know that we can't, and yet why do we try so hard? And I don't even think that we're trying to necessarily change people, but we are trying to change their minds if we really drill down to it. We don't want to necessarily reign superiority of our intelligence over them, but we really believe what we believe. We're invested in it, and we believe that our way holds the truth and has the power to change lives, and everybody will be happy if they just feel the way we feel. Amen. WWAD. What would a Tiba do? So when people don't agree with us, why does it cause so much conflict? It's just a difference of opinion, right? When we feel conflict, what we're really feeling is fear. And we know there's only two emotions, love and fear. Everything else can be put in one of those two buckets. And when we feel fear, what we're really feeling is a loss of power, a loss of security, a loss or a threat of loss that threatens us. So people who are angry are really just fearful, although they don't necessarily look that way. Something they hold dear is being taken, or it's perceived that it's being taken. And that's a really important distinction. The threat can be real. There can be a tiger chasing you through the Amazon forest. It's probably good to be fearful, and it's probably really good to run. Or the threat can be perceived. In other words, well, I don't think they like me. They don't think I'm doing a good job. That is not necessarily real. But what we feel, we think is real. Now, here's the awesome and maybe a little bit scary part. Very few things are actually objectively real. Let that sink in. Gravity is, hopefully, we're not going to float up. But we are each having a unique experience right at this moment with this talk and in this room. Our perceptions are driving our experience. And what happens is, when we're in an experience, we're filtering that through a personal lens of what's happened to us in the past, maybe what our parents thought of us, if we were bullied, how we feel about the world. And so we're creating our own reality. And yet we're sitting next to people thinking they're experiencing the same thing. And they're not. They're experiencing their own. Now, I had the very first taste of this when I worked at Borders in Syracuse. And I hadn't found unity yet. My mom actually called me and said, "Oh my goodness, there's a church that believes what you've been saying since you were 7 years old. That's crazy." And so I found unity after that. But I was working for a boss who was very intimidating. I lived in Syracuse and I had a store, and my really good friend also had a store. And we had the same boss. And so she was very intimidating to me. And she kind of led by fear. She was very sarcastic. And so I found myself shrinking down every time I saw her. And I would be so scared. And then I would start making mistakes and flubbing up. And it's like she fed on that energy. And one day I realized that my friend, who wasn't really a better manager than me, had a great relationship with her. It was like it just went over her head. And I thought, now wait a minute. Is it possible that that's the same boss and it's me who's dictating the narrative of this experience? And I thought, wow, this is really powerful. And I thought that I had solved the entire world's problem and I was going to go on to be this famous person. And then I found unity and I realized it was already there. So my mind was pretty much blown. And we know now, unity principle number 3, thoughts and mind reproduce after their kind. And that shifting those negative thoughts can definitely elicit change. As you become more aware of your thoughts, however, you begin to realize you hear this, and then there's someone listening. So now it's time to talk about the voices in our head. Who else has them? Please say it's not just me. Please. Right. That voice. The voice that tells you you're not good enough, the voice who compares you to everybody else, the voice who questions your decisions, that voice. And did you ever notice that once you latch onto that voice, or it becomes really audible on any particular day, that things just snowball downhill? It's like you could be having a good day, and as those thoughts reproduce, suddenly you're not doing well, and you know, they were right. Well, who's they? Who's the they that's right? Well, the they is everyone outside of God who has a hand in creating your belief system about yourself, including you. You see, we're these perfect souls that were created in the image and likeness of God. But in order to experience the vastness of that love, we had to separate from God and come to the earth plane to play the game of being human. So our little soul decides to come to earth, and in my belief system, I do believe in soul contracts, that we choose experiences that we want to work through in our incarnation. So rather than just booking the earth cruise, if you were me, I would have signed up for Bullied Bingo, and I definitely bought tickets to the Cancer Carousel. Now, maybe you chose the Financial Fiasco Flamenco dance class, or Depression Darts tournament, which could get very dangerous. And I think it's safe to say that every single one of us has tickets to the Judging Mothers Jamboree, where everyone's a critic. It's the longest running show in history. So we leave the splendor of heaven where we only know love, and we come down, and these days, the first days we meet are our parents. And hopefully they love us, but what we don't realize at the time is that they have days of their own. So generationally, they've been taught what to think about themselves, and so they have the purest intentions, but maybe they're passing on things that are not the truth of who we really are. Returning to peace requires that we're able to discern the theys from the still small voice that is that God self and the essence of who we are. I've been spending more time in prayer and meditation lately because my voice has been running rampant. It's the most busy time of the year for a music director, and so that voice has just been running its mouth. So I thought, okay, I'm going to deepen my connection with God in my meditation practice. So I've been definitely more in meditation, and what I was able to figure out is that that voice just wants to be heard. It was banging on the inside of my head going, I just want to be safe, I want to be loved. And so when I was able to hear that and take validation, instead of having to take validation from outside to make sure that I'm okay, I started to be able to hear the voice inside letting me know that I am okay. But it takes constant vigilance, and that's what we're going to learn today. We have the creative power, but we have to be aware. We are living in a very different time from when most of us grew up, right? So now with the advent of the internet and Facebook, if anything happens in the world, we immediately get a notification from Twitter. If somebody you babysat in Alaska when you lived there in the 80s gets married, you immediately see pictures on your Facebook feed of real-time wedding photos. And it can be really easy to want to compare ourselves to what we're seeing on Facebook. But that is not necessarily reality. In fact, most of the time, what we're seeing is not reality. We need to tread lightly. We live in an open source world now where news is shared by anyone, and we put our best face forward on Facebook, filters and all. And I told this at the first service. April will remember. I had gotten a new phone, and I was like, man, this phone is taking the most amazing pictures, right? I'm looking really good these days. I was like, I'm looking like I'm aging backwards. This is wonderful. I'm living the good life. So April and I, we were one day taking selfies, and we're like, this is amazing. So I go to Thanksgiving dinner, and my cousin and I are taking pictures, and she looks at me and she goes, you know we don't look like that. And I said, what do you mean we don't look like that? She goes, look at that picture. You know we don't look like that. I was like, no, I totally think we look like that. For months I've thought we look like that. Well, she said, you must have a beauty filter on your phone. What's a beauty filter? It's not Snapchat. I'm not trying to manipulate it, but there, in fact, it was. And I had to go to April. I have to say, in retrospect, when I look at some of those pictures, not only don't I have wrinkles, but I almost look like a plastic doll. But in my mind, I was like, I'm looking good. So we have to really be careful that what our mind wants to see truth, right? So what we see, it wants to believe. I'm not bashing social media. It's a wonderful way to stay connected and to keep up with family and friends, but we just can't rely on it for objective reality. The answer isn't to be jaded and assume the worst, but to work diligently to create our own peace through our perceptions. So hold your thumb out. You only have the capacity to focus on information as large as your thumb at any given moment. Everything else is in the periphery, and it's still there, and it can still affect you, but what you focus on. So we have the ability to discern exactly what we're focusing on at any given time. Now, I learned that we are actually wired for negativity. Mom, you'll be really excited to hear this. My mom and I were talking about why some people always go to the worst case scenario. Well, it turns out we were wired that way. It's part of the fight or flight response. Have you ever noticed that 10 good things can happen in your day, and then one little passive-aggressive comment from somebody, and your entire day is derailed, and you just want to go home and pull the covers up? Or 20 people say they love your banana bread, and you're the best baker in the world, and then your mother-in-law makes a weird face when she takes a bite, and you hang up your apron, and you're like, I'm done. Why does that happen to anybody else? Yeah, exactly. I thought I was just a negative Nancy, but we can release a little bit in knowing that we actually have to overcome how we were wired, because it's something called negativity bias. It turns out it's part of the human condition. In 2001, psychologists Paul Rosen and Edward Roseman theorized that we give greater weight to the negative than the positive. From an evolutionary standpoint, our survival depended on it. Basically, it was a way for our ancestors to stay really guarded about everything going on around them. like a dark alley might be to us today, but it was jaguars and such. So we were wired to not be complacent and rest on our laurels and assume that everything was working in our favor. It helped them survive. And a lot of research has been done on this. They actually looked at babies' brains, and within 4 months of being born, they start to show signs of negativity bias. So whereas they're, in the beginning, paying attention to mom's smile, they eventually start being more, their brains are more active, like with the startle reflex. So they also did a study with adults where they showed images of neutral images, positive images, and negative. And it spikes all the way up when we see a negative image. So you might think, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm just gonna, what's the saying? Prepare for the worst. What is that saying? Expect the best, but prepare for the worst? No, that sounds too optimistic. I can't remember the saying, but it basically tells you, always be thinking about the worst case scenario, but then when it doesn't happen, yay, surprise. But don't think about the best case scenario because you're gonna get surprised. Well, there is hope. There is a way to change our brain's negativity bias. And just like what we're talking about, where we focus, we have to be vigilant with our thoughts and where our energy goes. In order for a positive memory to take root in our long-term memory, we have to hold it in our conscious awareness for 10 to 20 seconds. Now, this makes sense to me because I completely ruminate over something that somebody says against me for like 48 hours. So I have completely indoctrinated it into my very cells. So I'm now giving you permission to go ahead and take the compliment and just keep telling yourself that compliment over and over and over. That's right, I'm the best baker in the whole world. And that, for 10 to 20 seconds, will lock that into your long-term memory. And eventually, we can switch to where we're seeing the positive. The brain sees what it wants to see. And it's a pretty amazing thing. So if you decide that you want to buy a car, and maybe you're looking at a Honda CR-V, what do you suddenly see everywhere? Right. So why not just assume everybody loves you? That's what my friend did. I mean, I bore witness to, she could be kind of annoying. Gosh, I hope she's not watching. she could be a lot, what you'd say extra. And I would see people kind of get a little turned off, but it just completely was not in her realm of experience. She walked in and owned a room and still does, as if everybody loved her. And I can tell you, almost to a person, by the time they left, they did love her. And I thought, it's not witchcraft. She is choosing how she is viewing the feedback she's getting and probably showing up with them in a more loving way. So, who wants a visual? Yay. Let's do some yoga. So, let me check my notes, make sure I'm on track. How does this relate to peace? That's what we're talking about, peace. So we have all these, this is called piece by piece, but without seeing it, it might be confusing. So peace, P-E-A-C-E, by peace, P-I-E-C-E. So we have all these pieces that are in our experience, some of which we have control over and some of which we have no control over. But we get to affect change and we get to affect the outcome based on what we can control. So let's say you lose your job. That's a real thing that could happen. Then you go home and tell your partner you lost the job, and they say, how could you do this? I told you not to get into that company. They're not a stable company. Well, because your father, you always felt judged by your father, you immediately start playing the tape that says, oh my gosh, they're right. How could I do this? Your friend calls you and says, well, my company is hiring. I can get you a job interview. You'd be perfect. But because of the inner programming and how you feel about yourself, you reluctantly say that you'll go to the interview, but the whole way you're thinking, I'm not going to get the job, I'm not going to get the job. And guess what? You don't get the job. So what's happened? Momentum, energetic momentum. It takes just the energy of one domino, or in our case, yoga block, to carry that negative belief and that negative situation all the way through to the action of sabotaging the interview. So let me back this up. Do we have any choice in the matter? Can we do anything about it? Well, the answer is yes. We still lose our job. We still go home and our partner still says what they say because can we control anybody? No. Here is the point of power. We might start to think, well, my dad really judged me and I'm nothing, but we can stop in that moment. We can remove that piece that is unlike peace. And what happens? We stop the energy. It's called a pattern interrupt. We have the power to stop the energy in its tracks. And what you see now is a space. And we can fill that space with love. We can fill that space with the breath, the time to gather ourselves and remember who we are at our core. So we can also do it in conflict, actually. We can do it with conflict with other people. So say we go to the grocery store and we see a friend we haven't seen. We're exhausted, but we decide to talk. She says something extremely offensive that you just cannot believe. You think, I cannot believe she said that. What is she thinking? So you retort back, and she is hurt, can't believe you said what you said, and the friendship is compromised. What happens? Energy. However, again, we see her at the store, we're tired, but we decide to talk. She says something that we disagree with. This time, we don't react, and we say, wow, she thinks about that differently. Because we can't change people, and we interrupt the pattern, keeping our friendship intact. Dominoes, my friend. Thank you. That came to me in my sleep. I was going to use real dominoes, but that would have been pretty scary, and luckily my mom thought of the yoga blocks. So the point of power is in the present. We can pattern interrupt at any time. And now, yes, peace is really our responsibility, but it doesn't let us completely off the hook from being a good human, because we can help facilitate peace outside of ourselves. According to Pema Chodron, again, it's the hardening of the heart, the constriction in the face of fear that causes well-meaning, loving people to act in ways that are unlike the truth of who they are. When we hold tightly to our views, we're hardening our heart against the uneasiness that we feel. Again, that goes to the fear. What's being taken from me? So the slide, this quote from Pema says, what I'm advocating here is something that requires courage, the courage to have a change of heart. This requires courage because when we don't do the habitual thing, hardening our heart and holding tightly to certain views, then we're left with the underlying uneasiness that we were trying to get away from. This is the real work of the peacemaker, to find the soft spot and the tenderness in that very uneasy place and stay with it. If we can stay with the soft spot and stay with a tender heart, then we are cultivating the seeds of peace. But it's scary to have a tender heart, right? Because if we have a tender heart, then what can happen? We can get hurt. It can get broken. It can get bruised and damaged. But our strength lies in our vulnerability. We were talking at first service, and Diane brought up a situation where a parent at Children's Healthcare, and parents are under the most stress when their children are sick. And so they had a rule that they weren't going to let parents abuse or swear at them. And this one particular mom was just really not handling herself well. And so it eventually made its way to Diane's desk. And what she finally was able to get this woman to show is what was really going on. I can't remember all the details, but she was a single mom, someone had cancer, she had a special needs child. So all that anger was really fear. Her heart was constricting. And by Diane being able to peel off those layers and then say that to the staff, the strength was in the vulnerability. They were able to step into that woman's shoes and show compassion. Now, we have some tools to cultivating peace, and we've talked a little bit about them, but we'll just go in order. The first is to get still every single day. Now, getting still does not mean binging on Netflix. It does certainly not mean scrolling on Facebook, which is definitely not peaceful. It means actively disengaging and getting still. Now, what happens is we're left with our thoughts, and that can be a scary place. I know, for me it can be a scary place. But don't try to stop the thoughts. Remember, you can discern where to put your focus, where to put your energy, and whether or not to focus on any one particular thought. But you don't have to be afraid of them. And in fact, you may glean some lesson or positive thing from the thoughts that are coming through. Number 2, stay rooted in the present. We learn this from the kids and from our pets. Now, when I was in treatment, I was really happy. And I remember one day my mom saying, "Are you okay?" Because I was just giggling all the time. And I thought, I don't know, am I okay? And what I realized is that I was living exclusively in the present moment. I could not think about everything that was going on. And so that is where the gift of, they say the gift of the present, that's exactly what it is. So if I was playing with my dog, I was only playing with the dog. If I was with Carla's children, my soul children, everything else faded away. Thich Nhat Hanh has a quote that illustrates the power of the present beautifully. He says, "In your very planning, you are sowing the seeds of disappointment. In your very worrying about the future, you are wasting the present. And slowly, it becomes your second nature to worry about the future. So when the future comes, it will come as the present. And because of your habit of worrying about the future, you will waste that moment also in worrying. Live intensely and totally now, because the next moment will be born out of this moment. And if you have lived it totally and joyously, you can be certain that the next moment will bring more blessings and more joy." Yeah, you can take a picture if you want. Whenever you find yourself having feelings unlike peace, again, we have the ability to remove those pieces that are unlike peace. And I've checked in with myself 9 times out of 10, if I'm having a feeling unlike peace, I am either thinking about the past or worrying about the future. Come back to the present and peace will be yours. Number 3, release attachment. We know from the Buddhists that attachment is the root of all suffering. When we invest ourselves too much in external events, we set ourselves up to get rattled. I don't know about you, but I will sometimes carry around the things and the burdens and the things that people have said about me so that I can unpack them whenever I feel like revisiting that again. That is just insanity. I'm attached to what? Feeling bad again? I'm a processor, so I can't give up completely processing because I do gain a lot of inner knowing, but you have to tread really lightly. When we revisit the same thing over and over again, we are not living in the present. When your well-being isn't dependent on exterior circumstances, you can create it from within your interior life, deriving it from the depth and richness of your relationship with yourself and God. So, releasing ourselves from specific outcomes and knowing that whatever outcome happens is for our best and highest isn't necessarily easy, but it is simple. Trust and allow, and don't ask how. God's got it. All right. Number 4, walk in another person's shoes. Like Diane's example, we can't really know what's going on with somebody until we walk in their shoes, or we're willing to walk in their shoes. And what that takes from the other person is vulnerability. So both sides have to be willing. And a lot of times when judgment comes, it's because we're judging. If I'm judging you for blowing your nose right now, I'm really judging myself. So peace starts from within, but when we feel something unlike peace with another, it's because they're a mirror for us. But when we put ourselves in their shoes, and if they are willing to really shed light on what is really going on and drop the mask, drop the beauty filter that says they're smooth as can be, there is real power there. Finally, remove any pieces like peace. Go back to our dominoes. Now, this takes practice because it takes awareness and it takes time and it takes space. We're creating the space. So when we just get stuck, or not stuck, when we have the momentum of life and we're not cognizant of what's going on, that's when the momentum can just keep going. So we have to be really willing to stop and say, what piece am I going to remove that's within my control that will restore peace to me and hopefully peace to someone else? And that's the pattern interrupt. So when we remove those pieces, we create space. Space to breathe, space to listen, and space to love. In that space, we can plant the seeds of peace in the fertile soil of our tender, open hearts. As we water the seeds with compassion and understanding for ourselves and those we come in contact with, the seeds begin to take root and begin to grow. Our heart, though still tender, now feels strong, no longer hardened against the uneasiness of the unknown it once felt. It allows peace to flourish, and the world becomes a little better. Thank you.
So let's create that very space and that peace right now. Take a deep breath with me. And let's join Julie in the consciousness that's been created here, the ideas and the thoughts. Let them seep into the soil of our being right now. Maybe one idea. Let it be alive in you right now. And we're going to use these words. Many of you will recognize it as a song that goes hand in hand, point, counterpoint with Silent Night. If you want to sing Silent Night while we do this, please feel free to do that. Let us affirm peace right here, right now, as we join in voice, in heart, and in spirit, leading into our meditation. Peace, peace, peace on earth and good will to all. This is a time for joy. This is a time for love. Now let us sing, all sing together of peace, peace, peace on earth. Please join me. Peace, peace, peace on earth and good will to all. This is a time for joy. This is a time for love. Now let us sing, all sing together of peace, peace, peace on earth.
Bring your awareness into this now moment, into your body. Becoming fully aware of the ability to move the body, but that you're not using that ability at this time. I invite you to sit tall and well, to close your outer eyes and let that gesture, that action, help you to transition more deeply inward into your own sanctuary. Become aware of the breath, just beginning to notice the coming, going, flowing nature of the breath. And merely by shifting your awareness into it, it begins to deepen and perhaps slow. And then allowing your awareness to move even deeper inward, right into the center of your chest, into the cave of your heart. And in that space, right at the center of your chest, not superficial, but deep, deep in the middle, know with every fiber of your being that you are peace. You are peace being you. Peace is your true nature. And since you are peace, since we are peace, we can remove anything that is unlike peace. So focusing deeply, deeply into the heart space, as you breathe in without hesitation, completely trusting, breathe in anything that is unlike peace. And as the filter, breathe out peace into this space. It may sound counterintuitive. You are the lungs. You are the sieve. You are the peace. Breathe in suffering. It's not yours, but breathe it in. And as you breathe out, release it back as peace. Breathe in confusion. It's not yours. It's not who you are. You're just the filter, the charcoal. Breathe out peace. It isn't backwards. Breathe in anger. Breathe out peace, this ancient practice of Tonglen. Breathe in fear. Breathe out peace. Breathe in the belief that there is space between you and the people around you. Breathe out peace. Breathe in any separation. Breathe out peace. There's only peace. Breathe in peace. Breathe out peace. Be peace. Be aware of the silence. It is one and the same with peace. Remain aware of it as you reflect on the relative quietness of your mind. Be aware of the smoothness of your breath. Be aware of the stillness of your body. The next moment is born from this one. Bring back peace as you gently open your eyes.
Thank you, April. Thank you, Julie. I would like to take that energy field that we just created, and I want to send it to a few people. You may notice that Will Hodge is not here today. We had rehearsed all the music, and his father unexpectedly passed, and so he's saying goodbye to his father right now at a different community. Send some love to Will. Also, a beloved member of this community, Reverend Sydney McGill Lindquist, made her transition recently, and there's going to be a service next Saturday. What time is that service, Debbie? 11. I think it's 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock next Saturday. If you'd like to, if you knew Sydney, come hold sacred space with our brothers and sisters from One World Spiritual Center. We'll be here saying goodbye to Reverend Sydney. I'm going to invite you to take whatever gift that you have to give today as a means of saying thank you for the wonderful talk, the time together today. It may be a check, it might be cash, it could be on the consistent giving program, it could be that you're texting. You can hold your phone close if you want. But we receive any and all generosity with grateful thanks. We appreciate your generosity, and we want you to know that it's pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. So as you give, you are participating in a great flow. Take that gift and place it upon your heart, and let us, with one powerful voice, say our offering blessing together. Together we say, I am so blessed, I am so prosperous, and it is my great pleasure to share of my prosperity and to share of my blessings. And in the giving, the entire world is blessed. Thank you, God. Amen. And as the baskets come around, let us join in voice by singing, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
When I heard what Julie was going to talk about today, I went way back into my file drawer, and this is one of the very first songs that I ever wrote. I think I was 19, so that was almost 40 years ago. And it's just perfect, but there's a part for all of you. Every time I say the words, feel the music, I'm going to invite you to sing those with me. You're going to catch it 2 or 3 times. It's going to happen over and over and over. But take your hand and feel the peace first, because we can't create peace out there until we first feel it within. I'm glad this is offered, and I want to give thanks to Mike Marinelli, who does first service with me. And I said, could you stay and play a little sax since Will's not going to be here? So take it, guys. Let's do this. Snapping fingers is good. Here comes your part now. You gotta feel the music and feel it come from deep within. You gotta feel the music before the singing can begin. You gotta know that way down deep inside is where you give the music life. Feel the music. everything will be all right. Now there was a man named Jesus. He made the lame man walk. And people came from miles around just to hear him talk. But he said it wasn't the words that heal, it's the feeling inside that makes it real. You gotta feel the music and everything will be all right. Now, how about that Moses? He set his people free. After talking to the Pharaoh, no, he knew it wouldn't be easy. But as he faced his greatest challenge, that strong and mighty rolling sea, he went within, heard music, and led the people from captivity. You gotta feel the music and feel it come from deep within. You've gotta, before the singing can begin, you've gotta know that way down deep inside is where you're gonna give the music life. And everything will be alright. Now Christmas time is calling for you to grab the moon. It's time to set intention and listen to that tune. But you cannot hear that music when you're listening way outside. It's only on the inside that you'll hear the voice of Christ. Now in your being, there's a goodness, there's a light. It's called the Christmas spirit. It'll lead you through that night. But you cannot find that music when you're listening on the outside. It's only on the inside that you'll find the heart of Christ. You gotta feel the music, feel it come from deep within. Gotta feel that music before the singing can begin. You gotta know that way down deep inside is where you're gonna give the music life. Feel the music and everything will be alright. Take it, Mike. Take it up a notch, guys. Give it to me. Mr. Mike Marinelli. You gotta feel the music and feel it come from deep within. You've gotta, before the singing can begin. You gotta know that way down deep inside is where you're gonna give the music life. Feel the music and everything will be alright. Yeah, everything will be alright. I say everything will be alright. Oh yeah. Let's all stand and join hands, and let's just close this song. Let's close this service. Let's close this time with knowing that peace begins with each and every one of us. Make a sacred vow and a sacred pledge to hear the music, to feel the music, to express the music, to experience the music, and know that peace on earth will be a reality. Are you guys going to sing with me? I'm just waiting for you to come up here.
We thought you were ending.
Let's join our voices.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator. Family all are we. Let us walk with each other. Every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever I am, God is.
Wherever you are, God is. And guess what? God's down in the craft fair. So go downstairs, get some refreshments, buy yourself some lunch, go support our Unity North crafters. Have a fantastic and wonderful week of being peace.